boy, had been born under her skirts and appeared to be dead. It is not clear whether the birth took place on the stairs, but she delivered him herself, and must have cut the umbilical cord and cleaned up as best she could. Then she found a box, or a pot, in which she placed the dead newborn child, and hid him under the dresser. Her mistress, Mrs. Mary Simmons, sent her up to scrub the front door steps in the cold after her guests left, and then, seeing how ill and thin she looked, taxed her with having given birth. At first she denied it, but then, being threatened with a medical examination, confessed and showed Mrs. Simmons where she had put the baby. Mrs. Simmons sent for a hackney coach to remove Eliza and her dead child from her house to the Marylebone Workhouse Infirmary. Mrs. Simmons appears as an unsympathetic witness and resists questions from Dickens, who hopes to give a favourable turn to the case. The coroner gives a look of encouragement to the juror, and the accused girl wails. The next witness is the house surgeon, Mr. Boyd, who reports that the accused told him she was seized with labour in the kitchen when the bell was rung by two ladies. She hurried to let them in, and in the act of doing so, the child was born, and on her return, it was dead. He is not able to say positively whether it was born alive or dead. Afterwards, in private conversation, Mr. Wakely tells Dickens that it is very unlikely that the child could have drawn more than a few breaths, if indeed any, since there was foreign matter in his windpipe. Miss Burgess is led away while the jurors discuss the case. Dickens resolves to take on those who are ready to find her guilty of killing her child, and, with some encouragement from Mr. Wakely, he argues against them so firmly and forcefully that he wins the argument. When Miss Burgess is brought back, the verdict is given: found dead. She falls on her knees to thank the jurors, with protestations that we were right, protestations among the most affecting that I have ever heard in my life. Then she faints and is carried away. She will still have to be held in prison and appear at the Old Bailey in due course, but the threat of the death penalty has now been taken from her. Dickens, who is without doubt the busiest man of the 12, goes home and makes arrangements for her to be sent food and other comforts in prison. He also finds an excellent barrister, Richard Doane of the Inner Temple, a friend and amanuensis of the late Jeremy Bentham, to defend her at the Old Bailey trial. That night he cannot sleep. He is overcome with sickness and indigestion, does not want to be alone, and asks his wife, Catherine, to sit up with him. The dead baby in the workhouse, the thought of prison and the terrified, ignorant, unhappy young woman prisoner have upset him. In the morning he writes to his closest friend, John Forster. Whether it was the poor baby, or its poor mother, or the coffin, or my fellow jurymen, or what not, I can't say. He already knows a good deal about prisons, since he has seen his father held in one for debt. Also about babies dying, since 2 of his younger siblings perished early. Happily his own 3 little ones are stout and healthy. And he knows about maids-of-all-work, or slaveys, well remembering the one who served his family when he was a boy, straight out of the workhouse where she grew up. He recovers from his sickness, and in the evening he and Forster meet at the Adelphi Theatre to see Jack Sheppard, the highwayman, played on travesty by Mary Ann Keeley, an actress well known to Dickens, since he had taken lessons in acting from her husband 8 years earlier. Charles Dickens had been observing the world about him since he was a child, and reporting on what he saw for the past 6 years, as a journalist and then as a novelist. Much of it amused him, but more of it upset him. The poverty, the hunger, the ignorance and squalor he saw in London, and the indifference of the rich and powerful to the condition of the poor and ignorant. Through his own energy and exceptional gifts, he had raised himself out of poverty, but he neither forgot it nor turned aside from the poverty about him. He drew attention to it in his books, and he was personally generous with his time and his money, and not only in the case of Eliza Burgess. Her case came up at the Old Bailey on the 9th of March and was reported in the Times the next day. She was indicted for unlawfully concealing the birth of a